FLX.com. This is Inside the FLX. I'm Josh Durso, and today I'm joined in studio by Chris Lajewski, Center Director for the Montezuma Audubon Center in Savannah up in Wayne County. Chris, welcome back. It's been like a month and a week. The weather has completely changed. I think we were sweating a little bit the last time you were here.
That's right.
That's over with. We're really into fall now. We got some bird migration happening. Let's start there.
That's right.
What do we have happening right now, or what are we seeing right now?
Well, right now we're at the peak of the waterfowl migration here in the Finger Lakes region. There are nearly 36 species of ducks, geese, and swans that are making their way from their breeding grounds up in the boreal forest of Canada, or some go up to the Arctic tundra to breed. And they're working their way through the Finger Lakes, stopping here, resting, feeding, and they're going to work their way down to at least the mid-Atlantic states. Some go a little bit further south to the southeast United States to spend the winter. So a great number of dabbling ducks like the American black duck, mallard, wood ducks are all on the move. Teal, both the green wing and blue wing teal are on the move. And divers as well. And divers need a little bit deeper water, so we're going to find more of them in the deeper marshes of Montezuma and the north end of Cayuga Lake. Birds like ring-necked duck, canvasback, and redhead are all on the move right now. Seeing an increase in the number of trumpeter swans. The first few tundra swans are also working their way through, and those numbers will only increase as we go deeper into the fall migration. And then another birding spotlight for us is the sandhill crane. We have seen over 100 sandhill cranes already in one single marsh that was down at the Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge just last week. It's called the Knox Marcellus Marsh on East Road in Savannah. And those numbers should increase as well as we go deeper into fall migration. Last year, our high count for sandhill cranes at that marsh was 255. So we're approaching, that number. We're about halfway to that number, and it'll be fun to see what happens with the population of sandhill cranes at Montezuma.
Curious, one of the questions that we've gotten a couple times over the last month and a half, 2 months, about just the bird population in general at the refuge. Do you guys ever have any idea in terms of like what the total population is of birds out across that entire property? Obviously, it's huge, so it's a guessing game. But is there like a process you guys use for kind of guesstimating what is what and how much wildlife is actually totally out there?
We do. The Montezuma Audubon Center, in partnership with the Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, throughout the year conduct waterfowl surveys and other bird surveys. So as we get into, say, the winter season, we're going to do some bald eagle surveys. So we're going to have a really good handle on the number of bald eagles that spend the winter with us. A lot of our resident birds stay here, but we also get Canadian bald eagles that come down and spend the winter with us. Typically, we'll see anywhere from 75 to almost 100 bald eagles right in the middle of January. Talking about waterfowl, we typically wait until March and April to do those waterfowl surveys, and we do that in partnership with our agency partners. We engage dozens of volunteers in that effort to get a handle on the number of waterfowl using this important bird area. And it's important to do because we do a lot of management at Montezuma, managing water levels, managing invasive species and habitats, and planting native vegetation. We want to make sure that the work that we're doing is having the desired results. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to follow up with birding surveys after you do the work.
Obviously, a lot of focus right now on the waterfowl and finches and sort of the going into winter birds. Talk to us a little bit about the process you guys use to figure out what that forecast looks like, what it looks like for fall, winter, and then eventually spring, I suppose.
Well, the Finch Research Network recently came out with its forecast for winter finches this year across the upper Midwest states, including New York, and on over to the Northeast United States. And last year, we saw what we call an eruption of finches. And the finches include the purple finch, the pine siskin, common redpoll, hoary redpoll, and evening grosbeak. So the reason why we had an eruption or an increase in the number of those bird species down here into the lower 48 is because the food that is typically up there in the boreal forest of central southern Canada wasn't there. So the pines, the spruces, the hemlock trees didn't produce the seed and the cone. They go through cycles, just like oaks do. Some years they produce more acorns than other years. So last year was a down year for cone production up north. That forced those birds further south to find food. And that's why we had many of these bird species in our backyards or in natural areas like Montezuma. This year, however, the forecast is not for an eruption year, more for a normal year, because those trees are producing food up north, and so the birds don't have to migrate south. While we certainly can see and have seen birds like the common redpoll already and the red-breasted nuthatch down here in New York State and at Montezuma, probably not going to have the same experience as we had last year.
So obviously hunting season is here. The last time you were here, we were talking about some of the programs for kids to sort of get that knowledge up, that knowledge base up about conservation and the role of hunting in that as well. What's it like out there at the Audubon Center, and how do you guys approach hunting season now that hunting season is fully here?
Right, we're well into deer hunting with the bow. Crossbow season is coming up here soon, and as we get deeper into November, it'll be rifle and shotgun season on deer. Right now, it's a lot of waterfowl hunters out across the Montezuma Wetlands Complex, but not at the Montezuma Audubon Center, because that is a hunt-free area for obvious reasons. We have an incredible number of visitors that come out. We have 2 miles of hiking trails that are winding their way through forest and grassland and around the restored marshes behind the center. So the 200 acres, 2 miles of trails, are a safe place where people can go and enjoy this fall migration, enjoy our programming. We have so many programs going on right now. People can go to montezuma.audubon.org for all that entire list of programs. And so we encourage people to come out, bring their dogs. They can bring their dogs on a leash, of course, and enjoy the birds and the wildlife that we have, and learn about the habitats that we have at Montezuma and how they are managed. So safe place at Montezuma Audubon Center. But if people want to go out and explore the rest of the wetlands complex, they certainly can. But they should just be aware that there is hunting on a lot of the other areas. All of the other New York State DEC areas, the 9,000 acres in Savannah, are huntable areas. The Refuge down here in Seneca Falls, a little bit different. They do restrict hunting in a lot of areas, but there are some areas that are open. And so folks can call us at the Audubon Center or go to the National Wildlife Refuge website for that map, so they can find out where hunting is permitted and where it is not.
And you mentioned it, clearly, ton of mileage to walk, to hike, especially this time of year. You don't have to worry about the warm weather or anything like that. Some guided hikes coming up. Walk us through what you guys have happening over the next several weekends, right?
Right. Every Saturday from now right on through December 18th, we are offering free guided birding hikes at the Montezuma Audubon Center. They're at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. They are starting to fill up, which is great. This is a partnership between the Montezuma Audubon Center and New York State Department of Canal Corporation. This is following up on our very successful summer kayaking series that we led, and the Canal Corporation was so impressed with the number of people that came out to Montezuma who were interested in learning about this amazing place. They partnered with us again to lead these free excursions up at the Audubon Center. Space is limited. We limit it to 20 people per guided hike. And if they're interested, then people can go to montezuma.audubon.org, click on programs and events, and register right there online.
Very cool. 2 community science programs also coming up that are worth talking about here. What's going on with them?
Yeah, the community science activities that we do at Montezuma and that anyone can get involved with wherever they are here in New York State, in the Finger Lakes region. eBird and Project Feeder Watch. So eBird is something that is done all throughout the year. And whether you're birding in your backyard or you go to People's Park here in Seneca Falls or Vince's Park, or you're at the Montezuma Wetlands Complex, you can keep track of birds that you see and hear through eBird. And that is very valuable information that Audubon, Cornell Lab of Ornithology scientists utilize to guide our conservation work. It helps us understand where birds are throughout the course of the year. Songbirds, waterfowl, birds of prey, they're all important and we're managing habitats for all of them. So people can go to ebird.org to register and to sign up. It's a free activity that people can do anywhere and really get involved in bird conservation.
Very cool.
Now, Project Feeder Watch is something that's just really during this late fall through the winter season. And it's done in people's backyards, but not necessarily. They can go to any natural area that has natural vegetation, food, and or water that's going to attract birds. And you don't even need a feeder. Mm-hmm. Really, you just need a natural area that's going to attract birds. And again, this is a project in partnership with Audubon and Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And we're actually going to be offering a virtual program coming up at the Audubon Center to introduce people to Project Feeder Watch. And that's coming up in just a couple weeks on November 13th at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if folks want to get involved in a community science, really a hemispheric-wide science project, here's the opportunity. And you can do it with family and friends from the comfort of your own home, from your kitchen, or you can venture out and explore the habitats around the Finger Lakes region and the birds that are there.
And probably the most exciting news we've had to share on the podcast here in the last few months anyway, you guys have launched a new campus chapter up at HWS. Talk to us a little bit about that.
This is a really great partnership, an extension of our existing partnership with Hobart William Smith Colleges that we've been involved with for a number of years. And now we are proud to announce that we have launched an Audubon campus chapter over in Geneva. This is going to engage roughly 50 students that are involved in the birding club at Hobart William Smith Colleges. We've already had our first activity with the students. They came out for a birding walk with me just last week. We traveled over some of the 2 miles of trails that we have at the Audubon Center, enjoyed all the waterfowl, the songbirds, and birds of prey that we have there. And this is going to be an opportunity for these budding birders, the next generation of conservationists and Auduboners, to get involved in Audubon's bird conservation work. Mm-hmm. Participate in birding surveys like what we have coming up here with the Bald Eagle Survey, Christmas bird counts coming up in December, those waterfowl surveys I mentioned earlier. They can participate, learn, hone their birding skills through these opportunities that we're going to provide. As we get deeper into the spring and summer season next year, the students are going to be involved in habitat restoration work at Montezuma Wetlands Complex, removing invasives, planting natives, collecting grassland and wetland seed that can then be used to restore the similar habitats around Montezuma. And we also want to provide opportunities for these students to work side by side with like-minded individuals, get them exposed to the agency biologists that work at Montezuma, that maintain and manage the 20,000 acres of public land at Montezuma, give them experiences, help them build their resume so that they can then flourish, hopefully in the conservation field. So really excited about this new Audubon campus chapter. This is one of about 150 Audubon campus chapters across the country, and our first right here in upstate New York.
I have to imagine there's quite a bit of upside there also, just in terms of getting the things that those students will ultimately be learning just sort of dispersed out across the entire country, because obviously not every student who graduates from HWS stays in Geneva or stays in the immediate area. You guys probably are pretty excited about that too.
It's the perfect situation because there are 34 Audubon centers across this country, mm-hmm. and hundreds of Audubon chapters across this country that are not necessarily campus chapters. They could be just chapters where people in the community get together and have formed a chapter. So we have Genesee Valley Audubon out in Rochester, Onondaga Audubon in Syracuse are two of our local and strong partnerships that we have. And so as those students then leave Hobart and leave Geneva, hopefully they stay engaged in the Audubon network through these other chapter and centers.
And of course, one last plug that I want to give you the chance to talk about here. Obviously, Foliage going away. Every year, whenever we get together and we're seeing this seasonal change happen, you always talk about how this is actually one of the better times all year to get out there and actually experience the center and experience the whole the whole thing out there because of the lack of foliage. You can see more. You can actually, see things that you can't see, during the summer and spring months. Talk to us about that and how that is really, we're getting into peak time right now.
Now is a great time to be out anywhere at the Montezuma Wetlands Complex to see birds, because the leaves are finally dropping. It was a little delayed given the warm September and October that we had, but now with the wind and rain, leaves are starting to drop. And so people, when they come out to places like the Montezuma Audubon Center, they're going to see not only songbirds that are here year-round, white-breasted nuthatches, American goldfinches, cardinals, blue jays, black-capped chickadees, but they'll also see these northern birds coming down, possibly the pine siskin, red-breasted nuthatch. We're starting to see an uptick in the number of northern harriers hunting around the grasslands and on the edges of forest habitat and in marshes as well. Bald eagles have been a regular sight for us at the Montezuma Audubon Center. We have a nest back in the swamp behind the center, and the two adults for that nest have regularly been seen sitting perched right along the forest edge there, and on occasion circling right over the marshes, grabbing some fish. So it's a great time. It's a beautiful time of year. A lot easier now for people to see birds now that the leaves have dropped.
All right, Chris, as always, appreciate the time. Thanks for taking it.
Thanks for having me.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, and until then, stay tuned. Inside the Finger Lakes is a production of FingerLakes1.com digital media. The show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to shows like this one. It's hosted by me, Josh Durso, and if you want to hear archived episodes, visit InsideTheFLX.com. If you have an idea for a show, email it to josh@FingerLakes1.com or follow me on Twitter @FLXJosh, where we keep the conversation going all week long. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here next week.